Well. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. We did it. At the end, the prank that BMW made it about the M3 Touring 24H. This is the real name of this Touring used in the 24-hour of the Nürburgring, and was made, as probably you already well know about, the vehicle was made after a prank. They made it in 2025. At the end, I decided also to try to build up my own version, and what I did, as you probably have seen from my social media, was to find a quite new diecast model that Burago did about the ordinary M3 Touring, but the street version, which exactly like the Racer has in common in the shape and the line of the Racer, the Racer based on the M4 GT3 Evo version, not the ordinary M4. They created a body shell completely different, to make this joke became reality. And they did the same here. So I basically cut the roof from the diecast and settled over the body of the Nunoplatz M4 GT3 ordinary, not Evo. The modification was a little bit difficult, not so much for the placing up of the roof, the rear part look similar. I hope that you can see clearly from my video. Looks similar to the M4, but is different because all the rear part became nearly 3 mm wider. That I like wide cars, so if she is wider, for me is just okay, to make it fit properly on the line under the window side, and if you look closely at the picture of the rear Racer, you will notice several difference between the time the picture have been taken. In the beginning you have the prototype. I don't know if it was the mock-up of the car, of the real car, it was the black car with written over "You dreamed it, we build it," which I made with my own version. You dreamed it, I build it, and then I modified and I made it even with AI. I made it, when it was nearly complete, because this model now it's about 90%, 90 to 95% of what will be the finished result. As you can see, I already mounted the under part, the under body shell of the Nunoplatz kit, and I would like that these videos that I'm making right now, make both them in English and in Italian, they could be used like a guide for an hypothetical build-up of my model, because the idea will be, now that I have the possibility to make it, to make some very short run copies in resin of this body shell. It depends from the caster, it depends from the availability of the people. But the idea it is anyway to cast the different part and to create a conversion kit. Probably in the future, bigger company, I don't know, PZI or Alpha Model can make the complete model, but it is a different range and they are much more bigger company than what I am. I'm just a maker and garage kit producer, working in my mess here. And if you are here, it means that you like it, And my concept was anyway, like for the real car, just to make a conversion for the M4 GT3. The M4 from Nunoplatz is a nice kit, it's not a wonderful kit, I had a close look at the parts, at the inner cage and so on, to see if it fits. I hope that you can see from here that nearly everything fits inside, nearly perfect, despite I have maintained all the transparent shell from the die-cast. In die-cast usually those are a unique part united by a transparent part here that makes even more thicker detail inside, but it fits, it anyway fits, so it means that the proportions are anyway respected. And what is absolutely great in this type of model is that both Nunoplatz and I think mostly Burago worked with the original 3D STL external file from BMW company. So this is the reason why basically the conversion of the roof was quite in brackets easy, even if it was not at all easy, because all the mounting on the A pillar were absolutely perfect and precise in the same nearly identical position. You had to adjust very little here. This because in the G80 series of the BMW They didn't change this angle from the front windshield like I did in previous series, like the E36, which I get one. I have a one M3 convertible from the E36, and the front frame is different than the ordinary touring car. The touring was much more similar to the sedan version. Instead, the cabrio and the convertible version and the coupe were another type of car. So the bonnet was different, the windshield was different, the mounting was, all the car was different. It looks extremely similar, but it was not. Instead, in the G80 they maintained the nicer slant line of the ordinary M4 or M3 street sports car. What I had to create it in the beginning was not thinking of that. When you look at this type of conversion, you think that the main work is about the roof, but when you get the roof, and thanks God also the part of the diecast, probably for their own reason, was made with a roof made in plastic. This allowed me to scratch a much more precise escape edge from the roof that is typical from these vehicles, as well as I had some PA details for the little spot here. I don't know what they are for, probably for some antennas in the real vehicle, so you have to study closely the picture of the real car. If you look them extremely closely, you also will notice that they changed from time to time the details over the vehicle, because for example in the first edition, this air intake, I was taking the picture from the race, so I wanted to do the car that made the 24 hours of the Nürburgring. This was a little smaller, despite in many other picture this NACA air intake became longer until here. The same for the other side. This I left like in the race. If you see the picture from the race, the left side of the car was completely transparent, as you can see the roll cage inside and so on, while in other picture they became nearly all the last part was completely black, and it looked like a carbon fiber panel, so it's not like a plastic or so on, or a Lexan. Of course, in the racer, all the glass part, they are no longer for safety reason in real glass, temperated glass, but they became completely in Lexan, so they just look like a transparent part. I've been working for Honda Motorsport, and I assure you that, for example, the windshield, that is a critical point in every ordinary street vehicle that is so clean and so on, when it is made in Lexan, became exactly like if you want to see through a can in plastic. So it's absolutely not that clean at all what you can see outside, but it is made that way for safety reason. They cannot use absolutely glass. For the same reason, for example, I had completely to rebuild this detail, which I was so happy to get from the diecast, but then I discovered that these grills here, they are vents, the same from the front vents, but these vents were similar to the M4 GT3, so I was hoping that I could take the transparent part, really well casted in the model from Nuno Platz, and simply replace this in this part. But then I look at closely the picture and they were reverses, so this position was completely the opposite. They start small and then big, while in the coupe is the opposite. They start big and they end small, so I had completely to rebuild this with plastic, and it was not that easy task. When I do the stuff, I make test and test and test. This is the debris of what I use for, I hope that you can see, to make details. These are the strip styrene from Evergreen that is absolutely mandatory when you do those kind of constructions. And in the creation of the body shell, another detail that became completely different, is that they use the rear hatch and all the rear part coming from the Touring. So the rear part of the BMW have to have the Touring appeal, so the rear lights are completely different. Also the place in the body is completely different, and they had this typical corner and angle little hidden here. These have to be completely rebuilt, because in the coupe version they are completely different. Is a different shape, so you just have the gem of the light that arrive a little higher up, longer. There is not this corner, so these have been, all this corner, this and this have been completely rebuilt. As well as for this rear bumper, I had to enlarge it for, as I said, nearly 3 millimeter, I remember, larger, because I took the measure from the trunk of the real car, which I assume it is correct, and it is probably the same stuff that you will find in the real car. So probably also the rear part of the real racer will be something like 6 to 10 centimeters wider than the original M4 GT3. As you can see, trying to fit the under part of the kit. This is just a dry fit with the parts coming from the kit. I had to cut this side here to make it fit a little better, to respect the stance of the model, you know. So when you cut these parts and just make it fit inside, I also place a little dent inside, which I hope it can be respected during the custom procedure. You will have the stance of the car, if you look closely at the picture, is respected. So this wheel sits here and this wheel sits here. You know, when we build up curbside model, it is absolutely mandatory, critical that the stance and the height of the model is respected, or at least similar to what we are trying to do. And here, as you can see, I think I did it. It was absolutely not an easy task, because in the beginning, of course, the part don't fit, and if you work a little too thick on the inside of the car, nothing will be properly sitting in its own position. Instead, I think I did it right, because, for example, even if I didn't place the part inside, there is the fuel tank filler that is starting from there. I don't know if you can see, and that's in this part, which is probably nearly in the same identical position as for the coupe, you know, coming down here and with a slant, very nice back of the car in this position, but I think is exactly the same identical point. And indeed the part inside nearly fits exactly in this position where I place it. So I think the construction and the position should be absolutely the same. Making the mock-up of the model, I also noticed that, of course, because we are in 2026, they didn't use the original model, and this is a gap that we have from nowadays models. When they make the model, you know, if you take the model from Nunoplatz, which is here, you can clearly see that they mean the car as 2022, and in 4 years, you know, 2022 was the year of the passage between the not Evo car to the Evo cars, you know, as I did for my Honda NSX. I made a Honda NSX from 2017, 2018. It was the beginning of the era. Then we had nearly 2 years of stop because of the COVID and the pandemic, so everything was stuck at there, and then they changed nearly I don't say everything, but a lot of parts in the vehicles, depending from factory manufacturer to manufacturer. Porsche did, BMW did, Ferrari did, Lamborghini even more. Probably Lamborghini was the one changing much more the vehicles between the ordinary version to an Evo version, you know, and this became an Evo. The Evo car from the BMW, she was already a winning racer, so she didn't need so many modifications like other vehicles probably did. And the main modification are indeed, if you look closely, the body of the part that you have at home, the vents up here. I know that there is LB production that make a conversion kit for it, but the main conversion here it is to make the vents that are completely inside this panel, and I prefer to build up by my own, so I modify the one from the kit, and I place them in the position without changing this part. So this part it is still sitting inside the original mold of the part. Plus here the Evo have a different, while if you just check at the parts in the picture, you will see that there is a different spot here. The side mirrors are different, and the front lights are different. So the front lights are the bulb inside, I mean not the shape of the front light, the bulb are a little more modern on the Evo version. Those are the main different parts. So I think on the main body, this part I already modified, and I will go for the modification probably of the front lights and the recreation of the side mirrors, you know, maybe in 3D parts, we will see. Anyway, this is the situation right now. We are currently at a 90 to 95% of what it is done. Forget to mention the rear wing. I made it with the idea even here to modify the parts coming from the kit, because basically the main difference was, of course, in the mountings, which they don't sit any longer on the bumper, but they sit on the mounts here. Let's see if I can do it without making a mess. Those are being drilled in the die cast, in the metal part, in the white metal, and I created 2 pins here. I hope you can see them from the camera. 2 pins, and the side that is going to the car is a little bit cutted 45 degrees to make it fit better. And on the body I recreate 2 holes which I think I will get it now, and it should be here. See, don't see it of course because it's not glued, but anyway you have a referring point on the body here, you see. So when this will be casted in resin, it will be extremely easy with some mini drills. This was my purpose, just to follow the already intake that I made and just drill it completely in the inner side. So this part you can also recreate. This will be made in resin too, of course divided from the main wing to the mountings. You can recreate with a little pin. I usually use metal pin from the seal of bags, you know, something like that, and you can simply place it inside and it will give you stability, you know, for this part. And I think is also respected in the 8. It just needs a little more trimming before going to production, and of course this is also a temporary build to see the final look of the overall thing, you know. That's it, nothing more to say. So the idea should be, now we are 90 to 95. As a typical for me, I don't have so much rush to do the model, basically because I did the model, so for me for me that is done, you know. And the idea will be to make some sort of easy conversion of a body shell and the transparent part for the rear lights, the rear windshield, and the two sides windshield with the parts for refueling, you know. So it will be quite easy, plus the wings. So I think it will be body shell, the 3 parts of the wing, and will be 10 parts, something like that. So something absolutely easy, which I hope the caster can cast, because you know usually there is some little tricky parts when it is this under squared part, mostly in the inner side of the body, is not that easy. So we still should make some consideration of what to change before getting into production. So this may take a little while more. So it is not a model that goes right now in the production. It is a model that will go probably during the summer in the production, you know. So this is my timings. And I really would like to do something simple and not too expensive, you know, but very, very easy to anybody to do a plug and play conversion with this body shell over the part from Nuno Platz. About the decals, I already know that Frank from Decal Doc already made, it's a company making decal for slot racing, you know, already made a sheet about the BMW M3. And my friend Fola from Slot Fabric is also working on this type of model. He's also say that he's interested in this body, so I hope that he really will do some interesting decal. You know, the decals are not that difficult. You know, there is some spots on the darker part of the car, but basically there is a German flag, black, red, yellow with the striping white with the logos over, so it should not be that different. And most important for myself at least, it is that on the rear part of the bumper here there is the dedica for Alex Zanardi that just died a few days before the 24 hours of the Nürburgring. And that's it, guys. I hope you like it. I'm really happy with the result of this model, and I think it will be extremely interesting to do something nice with this car, and I really hope that I can end with a conversion, which already some very skilled modelers, and I'm also always pleased when such type of modelers ask me, are already interested in this conversion. I hope that I will get it to an end. You know, right now I am in Sweden. I'm taking care of a little puppy of a Cavalier King. So if you have dogs and so on, you know how mad they are. So it really overtakes all my days, and that's why they keep, you know, working is a little slow down. But I think all the part that I should do, and that is why just now I made a video about this car, are ready to go in the production. And I just need a kind of a stress down time for about 1 week, where I keep the model completely away from my eyes, and then I take it back to check extremely critically what I did, what I can improve, some details to add. There is always something extra more, some bits, some pins. I also made extra from the body, from Nuno Platz, detailing parts for the inner side here, which were missing inside the model for molding purpose. Probably they were missing inside the original part. But I mean, if I'm going to cast also the front end, which is this part is coming from Nuno Platz, and I wanted to improve it a little, to add some little stupid details that everybody of you can absolutely do, but if you already find them done on the model, it is much more easy life, you know. Mostly, as I said millions of times, I think that the stance and the overall look of the car is taken. This is the BMW M3 Touring 24H in 1/24 scale. And today I think I'm the first one that finished the model. As I said, surely other guys, even more skilled than me, will absolutely do something like this. But my idea and my purpose is to do a kit like this available soon, probably. From me, if you want, if you are interested in my stuff, just drop me a mail at my usual info at marcalsoldatino.com, which is my email, or drop me a DM on Facebook. I usually don't answer on DM on Instagram because it's a big mess. So I'm a little older guy, so not so used to post and to push so much on Instagram and so on. I have followers, but I'm not so much after the stuff. I like to spend much more time on my models, with my wife, with my dog, and in my farm. That's it. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next.